Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notification, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So the stories I'm doing today are Foalish Misadventures by Green and Grass and Clouds 2 and At the Grand Galloping Gala by Rainbow Double Dash. These are the two finales of the Luniverse Season 1. These two stories right here are more of an epilogue sort of thing. And I would have wanted to do Grand Galloping Gala by itself, but Foalish Misadventures kind of fills a unique niche. And the fact it's supposed to directly lead into Act the Grand Galloping Gala, you have to read what you can't understand what's happening in this story without reading the story. This story is required to get this story. But I'll start with Foalish Misadventures and then move on to Grand Galloping Gala. So, what is Foalish Misadventures about? Well, the story actually starts with a party. They're doing a big fair, and all the adults are having the adult drinks known as alcohol. Yes, so much alcohol. You can shake. And of course, the only people that are not drinking are the fools. However, in Whitetail Woods, let me take my mouse as far away so it doesn't block the camera. In Whitetail Woods, Zecora is doing a curse. It's never stated what this curse is, but we know that Trixie found out about it and actually stopped the curse from happening. Or so we think. What the curse actually did was poison the alcohol. So basically what happens is everyone who drinks alcohol is like in a permanent state of inebriation. They drink enough to be able to get drunk, but not enough to just basically pass out and let the whole thing purge through the system. And that leaves a very, very tense pickle because the only people who are not affected are the various foals that live in Ponyville because they're simply too young to be able to drink. And Dinky, Ditsy's daughter, manages to find out something's going on and convinces several other ponies to be able to join them. At the same time, they're constantly getting chased and harassed by the adults, but basically are trying to force them to drink in order to get them to join in. Eventually, they find out that they find a tiny Zecora. Zecora finds out. No, what's the wording? They find a tiny Zecora because Zecora, in her haste to get away, wanders into Poison Joke, turns tiny. Zecora gets captured by the foals, and Zecora tells them how to cure the disease. They basically have to do all this little zebra thing, but they actually need a unicorn to do it, and they're just freaked out because, yeah, Dinky's a unicorn, Snails is a unicorn, but they're not particularly powerful unicorns. And so the climax actually ends with them having to trick a drunk Trixie into doing the spell. Or should we say Lulamoon, because Lulamoon is like a personality that Trixie adopts when she's very, very drunk. Netherlands, everybody! And the story actually ends with everyone becoming sober again and realizing they more or less destroyed the town. Like, they absolutely trashed the town. Everything, literally half the town was destroyed. There was windows smashed. There was buildings collapsed. There was messes and because of everyone being drunk, all the irrigation systems were literally pulled out. Food was wilted. Food was caught in a famine. A lot of stuff was destroyed. And that actually directly ties into this story. Because in order for them to get the funds to be able to fix the whole town, they have to what's the name of the town? what's the name of that? The REMM. What the hell? I completely forgot what the REMM stands for. Where is it? Let's see. Yeah, the REMM. The Royal Emergency Management Ministry. And that directly plays into this story because in order for them, because they simply don't have enough money to be not only be able to fix the entire town, but also because of all the food and all the apartment, all the stuff, the town is at risk of being abandoned, which leads into this one because this story is about them, or at least the first half of it, trying to get that money, or more specifically, Trixie trying to get that money. So it actually starts with them showcasing the town all wrecked up, just completely destroyed, and Trixie on a stage, the only area in front of the town hall, the only place that's big enough to house everyone, but also the only place that was at least clean enough that they could set up something like that. Trixie explains that they're not getting the money. Why? Because the REMM is run by Nightlight. For those of you who knows My Little Pony, Nightlight is Twilight Sparkle's father, and he's still very, very upset over Twilight running at the end of Ghost Busted. So basically, story then has Trixie wanting to do another shot at trying to convince Nightlight to get the money to get the funds to Ponyville. She goes to Canterlot, Greengrass, Fisher, which is another Duke, and Vice Count Prince Blueblood. They find out that Trixie's on her way to Canterlot, and basically set up a massive scheme to keep her away from Nightlight. However, it is eventually revealed that Nightlight knew about this the entire time. I just really, really did not want to see Trixie, and just humored it because he just gives zero fucks. Trixie manages to manage to get to Nightlight. However, Nightlight reveals that he's really, really bitter about Trixie basically causing Twilight to run away. In essence, he's playing a very concerned father, and he can't really do much besides lash out at Trixie because they have to send the Shadow Bolts, which is like the Lunaverse version of the FBI. Okay. Where was I? There's a dog. There's like two dogs right next to my car, barking and yelling and screaming. God, I hate the summer in Florida. It's so hot in here. Whew. So where was I? Oh yes. So Nightlight is obviously knows he's on the up and up. He's really like the only one of the very, very few clean members of royalty. And he basically makes it clear to Trixie. It's like, you basically caused my daughter to disappear. She's gone. I don't know where she is. She's dead, for all I know. And he offers Trixie an ultimatum. Either you... That thing, dumb guard truck. Caught me off guard. Either you get Twilight to me, or you leave the Night Court and never ever wanted to come back, or else I will make sure you never go anywhere in our court, in our world again, in our political world. Trixie's flabbergasted, and she's like, well, why are you doing it? It's like, it's just nature. And that's when Trixie realizes the system of the Night Court is corrupt itself. It's not so much individual members, it's the concept of the Night Court. And guess what? Luna knows, because it takes a historical backseat with like the whole rise and fall of an empire. It rises, there's a real shuffling, and then it just collapses. And Luna's trying to keep that as clean as possible. The problem is, Luna stayed hands off so hard that it basically made the system irreparable. So like, she throws out these corrupt nobles. Okay, then more corrupt nobles are gonna fill it immediately, because Luna is just so afraid of being seen exactly like Celestia in this context. She basically, if she exerts any power, then she's just afraid that they're going to see her as Celestia, as Corona. And she's terrified of that. So Trixie comes with a plan. Organize a massive sting at the Grand Galloping Gala to capture Zizane, which is a character that kind of popped up here and there in several stories under the guise of them hiring Zizane to poison some of the Night Court to basically get information. However, Trixie doesn't tell Luna this fact. It is revealed that Luna does know some things, but she doesn't know the full context of what Trixie is doing. Like, she doesn't know. She knows that, oh, we're gonna set up a sting. Like, that's obvious. We know there's gonna be a sting. They're gonna capture Zizane, and they're gonna lock up, and they're basically gonna convince Zizane to basically tell us what you know, and we might not let you get the news. However, Luna, it's obvious that Luna doesn't know about the truth serum, because that's actually kind of the key thing. That big thing that I mentioned in several stories, the truth is a scourge. That comes into play here. She basically uses truth as a scourge as a waypoint to convince Zizane to join, to basically get it. It's like, we'll give you the zebra potion. It's like, you give me the potion, I'll try and figure it out myself right here in front of you. All right. Zizane copies it, and she used that to poison everyone except for Blue Blood, because Blue Blood turns out to be on a date with Pinky. Yes, Blue Blood hangs out with Pinky, and Pinky basically stops him from drinking the poison, and she's not affected by it because she doesn't have a filter. Story of my life. However, at the end, the court, Luna promises to actually exercise more political power, not enough to be seen as, just enough that she gets a wake-up call saying that the reason they're acting like the entire Night Court system is acting like this is specifically because she was that afraid of doling out any sort of punishment, any sort of power. It really does complement, if you take this version with Celestia. Like, you have Celestia who gives off the impression that she's hands off, but then she's actually hands on, because she's like secretly guiding them. Like, she's just not so much like hand holding them. She's like nudging them in the direction she thinks that they need to go. But they figure it out on their own. Meanwhile, Luna is while on the face, very hands-off, in actuality, she is so massively hands-off that she let everything fester within. And to the point where that she just couldn't control anymore, because of her fears and insecurities. Which is fine. It mirrors canon Celestia in a neat way. That being said, there is one specific part of the story I'm not a fan of. I'll talk about that when I get to the end. I'll just move on from that. Where am I? Okay. So, at the Grand Galloping Gala ends with Luna trying to enforce the Night Court. Granted, it doesn't work. In season 2, it's revealed that some of the more radical members of the Night Court, they're still pushing their luck. Like, we have Fisher. However, he's more of a well-attended extremist. He honestly thinks he's doing good. And then you have Prusen, Viceroy Prusens, whose main issue is the fact that she's just kind of set in her ways. She's apparently like the oldest living member of the Night Court. So, and that's actually kind of realistic in the fact that, when you're old and you lived a certain way for so long, you kind of get set in your ways, and you're very hesitant to change. It's a very realistic reaction. However, Greengrass, he's pretty much been just completely ousted from the courts. He's everyone knows that Luna specifically hates the guy because he gets infected by the truth as a scourge. Reveals that he planned to basically overthrow Luna, basically compete in a coup, and Luna was really, really didn't like that. Although she keeps it hidden. And the story ends with the Luna Main Six being given knighthoods. They're given Titus Knights. Like you're out now, Knights of the Realm, right there, right there, the chapter. And basically, you're technically kind of like the Shadow Bolts in a way, like FBI or something. And this kind of ties into, yeah, the someone's calling me. This directly ties into season 2 because they needed these titles to be able to legally go to other countries and be involved in their affairs, because season 2 is all about setting up Discord, and that's fine. And this final chapter mirrors the first chapter of like, look at Ponyville, and it basically shows everything fixed or in the middle or more or less repaired. So we have that. So as for characters with Foalish Misadventures, you have these guys. Everyone's strong. Everyone's strong. Now that's just Pinky being Pinky right there. And they're all trying to go after. Oh, there's Trixie, just being Trixie. Like I am Lula Moon, laissez faire. So yeah, you have these. You don't experience much in the way of character development for this story, mainly because they're kids. Like I said in Super Paper Chopper, there's only so much you can really do with child characters, especially since the story is like $25. Especially since this story's only purpose is to basically set up the story. So I'm willing to give this story a pass on being somewhat shallow on character development. There is still character development, mainly with Dinky and Snails. But Scootaloo, Twist, I think that's Bebop, and Diamond Tiara, they're mainly just there. We do get a little more insight into Snails. He's a very big Trixie fanboy. There's a part where they told him when they're splitting up to get the ingredients to do the reversal spell, Snails offered to go to Trixie and get her stuff. However, instead of getting actual apothecary ingredients, he basically just grabs her magic kit. It's like, yeah, I got her hat. I can do anything now. And Dinky's kind of trying to keep everyone together. It really broaches the idea that Dinky, in this story, that Dinky's going to be more important going forward. I don't know. I can't remember if she does become more important in season 2, but I do think that, since as far as I know, like, season 3 hasn't started with the whole changelings. I figured they already revealed that season 3 is going to be them fighting up against the changelings. So I figure, and Dinky and Snails kind of befriend Ocelis. What's her name? Ocelis? The little girl changeling. I cannot pronounce her name. Ocelis or something like that. And they basically befriend her. So it's pretty obvious that Dinky and Snails are going to be more important later much later. I don't know if the Lunaverse is ever going to continue, because we haven't even gotten a start on the Discord on the final episode of season 2, which was the Discord episode. It's so weird having to refer to stories as episodes. That's pretty much how they're formatted. But yeah, you see like the beginnings of Dinky being a leader, mirroring the fact that there's like a youngling 6. They like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. There's 6. and the expectation that she's trying to keep everyone together. She's the one actually pretended, basically becoming her mom in a sense. And this is actually revealed. Like, I don't know if it's canon or not, but there is a story where Trixie runs into like an adult Dinky, and Dinky actually gets a kitty mark in friendship itself. I don't know if that's canon or not. To the universe, I don't know. But yeah, there's only so much you can do with kids. There's just only so much. Grand Galloping Gala, on the other hand, you have several characters. You have Trixie. Trixie is presented in the way that I think Trixie's character needed to go, with a big point of so a big point of the conflict here between Trixie and the corrupt members of the Night Court is a simple factor, all working under the assumption that Trixie is still Trixie at the beginning of the Luniverse. So they're let me actually find that story. Yeah, it should be let's see. Yeah, right here. They're all still assuming Trixie is behaving like the Trixie in this story. Because they're, again, going back to what I said about Prusens, they've been corrupt so long, and Trixie basically just acted like them for so long. Eager to get into the Night Court, really, really bad at it, and of course melting the Ice Palace, which were never explained. That they don't understand how the fact that she grew as a character. Like they think, oh, she still wants to be in the Night Court. That means she's still corrupt. She's still gonna manipulate everyone, ask for favors, jolly or goof off, and be Trixie. Basically, be one of them. That they don't understand the fact that she's doing this for her friends. She's doing it for the people she's living with in Ponyville. And that actually, and a lot of this can be summed up between this chapter right here. And where is it? The whole point where no, that's right here. The whole part with Greengrass. Basically, in this scene, Greengrass is on the second floor, and he's just specifically just watching Trixie. And you actually delve into his mind that he's just focused on Trixie, thinking like, okay, she's going to be doing something. She's up to something. She's up to something to just basically bring everyone down with her. Basically make her as bad as, basically put her on the same level as Night Court. The fact that she's willing to go these insane lengths. And Trixie's just sitting there at the bar, just drinking alcohol. And he's just completely confused of it. And he just doesn't understand. I think that's actually a good point with moving on to Greengrass's character in relation with Trixie. Because they represent, in this specific story, a dichotomy. Like, you have Trixie going through all these developments, all these growths as a character, and realizing that, it's fun. It is fun doing all these really insane things, like running a town and all thing. But it's not all it. But the crushing reality that she has, that she realizes, not really a game. The world of politics is really insane, in more ways than one. And then you have Greengrass, who's basically a man. He's basically a man child. Like I said, every time when I mention Greengrass, he basically treats politics like a game, like a literal game, like a game to be won. And it's kind of emphatic when he actually loses and he gets outed by Luna. He basically says, this is not fun anymore. He basically is a sort of loser. He realizes he finally lost because he's gotten used, ever since he joined the Night Court, he's always gotten used to winning, that he couldn't fathom the fact that he lost for once. Even if it was just one single time, he just could not. Just the fact that he lost a single time broke him, and which is why he's just not really doing that stuff anymore. And then you have Prusens, who's basically just a keeper of things. She's basically like, oh, I own this. We do get more explanation to that in season 2. Like I said, in season 2, there are 2 episodes that focus on Fisher and Prusens, and it shows that these two are specifically these two. They're not really worried about Luna. They think that they're basically calling Luna's bluff. That if one person misuses her power, report it to me. I'll basically fire everyone. They basically call, especially Prusums, who basically sees like no threat in Luna whatsoever. It's like, she hasn't done this in so long. She's not gonna do it now. But that's more. But Prusums is more explored more deeply in that specific episode where we go to where she lives and also the vault. There is a nice moment where we get her controlling nature of her talking to Charlie. Charlie is talking about education. However, Prusens thinks it's like she's basically insulting her because, and I do think that's actually a really neat character moment. Also, kind of a pseudo political moment. This story is very drenched in politics. I'm not a big fan of real world politics. Again, like I said several times, just because you don't like something doesn't mean you have to be not an idiot and not know about it. So basically, the whole standardized testing thing, like in World War, there's FCAT. There was the no student left behind. That was a mess, in my opinion. That was just made things worse. And now we have like this stupid. I don't even know what to call it. I don't say anything. That kind of divides, especially the whole idea of like, oh, someone who's an actual expert in the field because Charlie is a teacher versus someone who's like, oh, I'm saying these things to get PR, but I don't actually give a shit. And Prusums. Okay. And meanwhile, you also have these random interludes that is basically just Blue Blood getting cold caught by Pinky the entire time because it's Pinky. Of course, Pinky knows about the truth of the scourge because of Pinky senses, and she basically, like I said earlier, she drinks it. The final character worth talking about is Luna and Nightlight. Nightlight, I know, going offside, there's actually a lot of comments. Because sometimes when I read stories for FanFiction, I sometimes like to scroll through the comments. There's actually a massive debate and massive, I guess you could say, tons of arguments about Nightlight. A lot of people didn't like him. I think it's understandable because his character is that he's a grieving father. Like, he doesn't know. He's just basically an all-powerful father that, despite all his power, despite all his resources, he can't bring Twilight back because Twilight is so set in her ways, her delusions, that she's constantly running, and she's that powerful that they have basically the Pony FBI and the Shadow Boats. They have the Royal Guard after her. And then she just disappears. Of course, this is supposed to reference the fact that Twilight ended up in the canon world. Crisis in Equestria basically confirms that she somehow ended up there using her spells. And Nightlight perfectly represents a father who has all this power but cannot save his daughter. Someone who absolutely loves and lashes out at Trixie because he's really the only person he can do anything for. Like, okay, I can't save my daughter, but the person that she was last with, that despite it was her fault, despite it was Twilight's fault in the first place, Trixie was there and kind of played a part. So I'm gonna blame Trixie because it's the only way I can vent and grieve and try and get rid of some of this worry. I think that's portrayed very realistically. I think it's actually a very, very adult moment. I'll talk about his moment with Derpy, specifically that, because I'm going to talk about that later. But I do like Nightlight's portrayal in the story, and it's very, very mature. Similar to the Lyra Bonbon story where they meet the parents. It's very mature. It's very well done. I like his character. Luna, on the other hand, I'm not really a big fan of. I understand. Okay, so here's the thing with Luna's character. Luna being just hands off to a very detrimental to the nation extreme was foreshadowed, actually, if you pay attention, foreshadowed all the way back in Longest Night, Longest Day, when Luna confronts Trixie. Let me pull it up. Let me actually show you, because this is actually important. So I gotta actually find this. I think it's this. Uh, yeah, right here. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, right here. So for context for this part, Trixie manipulated a bunch of everything because a bunch of events uh, to tick off Luna, specifically because Luna found a bunch of letters in a safe done by previous tenants, specifically Blue Blood's family members, and they were always decried as like, oh, this is a punishment. Of course, this also kind of slightly foreshadows the whole thing with the Night Court, because they're all very, very posh and very ostentatiously corrupt ponies, and they don't like the fact that they're in a little hodug town right next to a Everfree forest. And Luna basically asks, is it better for a pony leader of ponies to be loved or be feared? In context, if you don't read the whole story, this kind of question comes off as like random. Like, it really doesn't make sense in the context of just this story. If you're just reading the story by itself, it doesn't make a lot of sense that she would randomly bring this up. However, if you know the context of how she treats Equestria, how she treats her rule, it makes way too much sense that even this far back, he was foreshadowing Luna's just complete passivity of the nation as a whole, from the Night Court to everything. See, and if it's not, the ability to create such feelings always be found in a single pony. Yep, some dudes know, some are fears. Yes, but what must she always fate? Yep, hate and contempt. This conversation is very, very telling right here. This part, because the one thing Luna doesn't want is hate and contempt from being compared with Corona. She's tearfully afraid because they're worried that her exerting any sort of power will cause them to hate her, will cause them to contempt her. And we see this throughout all the times where Luna is remotely part, with the exception of Hero Oten, where she does feel like she's just trying to just watch things. Like, she doesn't really like take sympathy for Sun and Moon. The whole point of her shunning people is because she's very who's off. She's basically sink or swim, and all these people who are just trying to do these songs, and basically they find it insulting her, but they never find out why they're insulting her. We do get an implication that with Piano Amor, that she actually became very close, and it's implied that Luna was going to offer a second chance, but Piano, just wanting to help her family, basically shunned the music forever. But that still leaves the fact that she basically just said nothing. She didn't say why they were bad. You just said insults. I'm going to ruin your life. Goodbye. With no one being none the wiser, and everyone just automatically said, oh, because Luna hates it, that means we must ruin that person's life. So that, even with that, it kind of portrays that Luna is so off-put of it showing any sort of power, that she also kind of inadvertently causes it as well, like with the symphony. Like, she doesn't try to shun these people. She basically said, oh, you're insulting me? Goodbye. And everyone just kind of rolls with it and basically shuns the person. Even if, like, Red Magician, who basically didn't care about music, he just wanted to try it for shits and giggles, and she's just like, no. Just completely ignores it. And then, of course, Granite Galloping Gala is basically just the powder keg that just basically causes it to light. Something that, Luna was so afraid of, but Trixie and the game and the main six basically have to try and force her. So you gotta exert some power. Otherwise, by not exerting power, they're basically just doing what you said you didn't want them to do. Because when Trixie calls out Luna, she basically says, "Is it better for a leader to be loved or feared?" Hmm? Hmm? Well, you're doing neither, and that's still causing them to contempt you, to hate you. These royals, they hate you, and they basically see you in contempt because you're just not doing anything. You're just standing there, sitting on the throne, being happy, possibly throwing ponies to the sun for bananas or something like that, or I don't know, mangoes. Luna and her mangoes. You don't like her mangoes? She sends you to the sun. And all that jazz. And that basically what gets to Luna. The fact that Trixie echoes that point from the very first story of like, well, the royals, they see you in contempt. They hate you because they know that they can do whatever they want and you'll never do anything about it. And that's actually another true thing about reality is like we're at the point. I just want to bring this up. We're at the point that a lot of people, like when it comes to like shoplifting and stuff like that, a lot of people shoplift because they're bored and they know that if they stop, if they get caught, they think, I can just get away with it because they don't want to lose. No, people don't want to lose a life or not worth it, and then they steal so much that the store closed down. It's like, I'll just start stealing from those store then. It's not my fault. It's everyone else's fault. That's it. But I don't know where I was going with that. I hate retail for that reason. Just people think that you can just get away with stealing. Stealing's bad. Honestly, you shouldn't steal. But yeah. But the reason I don't like Luna's character in this story is this was kind of a symptom of Luna's role in the Lunaverse as a whole. I don't. I think the whole contempt thing, while foreshadowed, I think it kind of bangs on the fact that Luna just doesn't show up enough. I think that's my biggest problem with Luna as a character in this story is the fact that yes, Luna's afraid. Luna needs a kick in the rear to basically show that she needs to stop dancing around this issue. The problem is Luna just doesn't show up enough. Like I get that Luna can't really show up for every episode. I mean, Celestia doesn't show up for many episodes, but the fact that you get more context in the limited screen time Celestia gets than Luna gets because Luna is infinitely a much more complex character. Like if an episode focuses on Celestia, then the episode will focus on Celestia. Like I think it's been so long since I've seen My Little Pony. I can't remember if there's any episodes that focus specifically on Celestia. I know there's one when they retired and they turned Twilight into the princess. I can't remember if there's any more besides that. But that's beside the point. Beside the point. The point is, Luna's an infinitely more complex character than Celestia. Because she has all these insecurities, she has all these fears, and the fact that we're not given any reason to care about that, that's really what I'm trying to get at. I don't particularly care about Luna in this story because she just simply didn't show up enough to have me care. I think that's just a me thing. That's really, honestly, just a me thing. If you like, I understand that people will like Luna in the story. I understand that people will not like Luna in this story. That's just my 2 cents. I think it's just the author tried to overcompensate for the fact that Luna just barely showed up at all. When she did show up, it was very, very brief and didn't really touch upon anything. And the fact that her character requires a lot of reading between the lines. You really gotta pay attention to what she's saying in any story that she shows up in, and she's specifically saying or doing something. You have to be paying very, very close attention to what she's specifically saying to understand that. Meanwhile, with Celestia on the show, you have a lot of visual cues and also a lot of auditorial cues. You getting and adding the fact that Celestia is kind of a more basic character. She's just basically a kind and caring person who just wants to guide ponies to the way she wants, and she's trying to be very cryptic about it. But she's cryptic in the fact that she wants them to figure out themselves. She has a very mischievous streak, very basic, what she can do. But that kind of, again, that's the flip side of this in the fact that Celestia is a more or less more basic character than Luna in these stories. And it just felt like the author was overcompensating of trying to shove as much character development for Luna as possible, and they kind of just going too far with it. That's just me. That's honestly just me. Grammar-wise, there's a lot of grammar errors here. However, Grass and Clouds 2, they don't. The author doesn't really fix the grammar errors, even if it's just pointed out to them. It's like, this. As well as the writing, it's a very basic story. When it comes to an idea like Foalish Misadventures, there's kind of a limit to what you can do. I mean, it's just city gets drunk, foals try and save town of drunk ponies, used as a backdrop to set up this story specifically. There's not much you can do with this. I know Jackalope Festival and Where There Is Fire, Through the Fire and Flames, I mentioned my main problem with those is they weren't explored enough. With this one, it's just how much can you expand on an idea like this? There's not much. You just can't really do. You just can't really do it. If it wasn't a setup for this story, maybe you can make an argument that you can do some stuff with it. But as it stands right now, there's not much you can do to expand upon this. With this, I think there was one grammar error. I can't remember. I know there was one. I remember seeing one near the end, but I cannot remember what it specifically was. But as for the pacing and the story structure, this one's the contrast. This one's very, very simple-esque writing and pacing. This one's more complex. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of political intrigue. I mean, it's a political. The Night Court's very political in nature. I mean, of course, you're gonna get some political stuff. That's just how it is. It is what it is. But similar to the Foalish Misadventures, there's only so much you can do, especially since you spent 20 plus stories building this up. And the more you build on something, the more you're expected to deliver on it as a more fitting finale. I think this story is as fitting as you're going to get, minus that one issue. Yeah, that's the end of those. Would I recommend these stories? If it wasn't for the fact that you need to read Foalish Misadventures to understand Grand Galloping Gala, I would say give this one a hard pass. There's just not enough to go around in an idea this basic. The idea is executed very well, and just not my sort of thing. But my throat's sore. The fact that you need this story to understand Grand Galloping Gala, you have to read the story. It's not so much you don't want to, you have to. But between me and me, I just say a slight pass unless you're a fan of Dinky and stuff like that. Grand Galloping Gala, I think next to Hero Oten and Musicians and Dreamers is probably the third best story. Third or second, depending on how I ultimately feel about Symphony. Hero Owen is still the best story, bar none. But yeah, that is it. Well, so favorite part. I don't have a favorite part for this, but I do have a favorite part for this. It's right here. I gotta actually find it. Right here. This entire right here. This first thing, specifically Dipsy's conversation with Nightlight. I think this was probably the most mature thing in the entire season one, because what happens in this context is Luna basically forcefully invited Nightlight. Like, you're going to the Grand Gala. What if I don't want to? You're going to. You're going to apologize to Trixie. And Nightlight approaches Trixie at the bar. Both of them knew that Nightlight's being forced to apologize. Trixie knows, and Nightlight knows that Trixie knows. And so basically they're just trying to force it. They realize this is being forced. You're honestly not even trying. Nightlight, they both understand this. Nightlight walks away. Dipsy saw what happened. And Dipsy goes to confront Nightlight. And so we have a conversation where she basically calls out Trixie, saying, "No, you should actually apologize." Granted, Dipsy doesn't know that Nightlight was pretty much forced, and the only reason why Trixie rebuffed him is because of the simple fact that he knew that it was being forced. And so we have a very mature moment where Nightlight is just basically trying to vent to Dipsy. We even get a somewhat insulting moment where Nightlight says, "Well, if you're a parent, you don't understand since you're too young." And then Dipsy goes, "Well, I'm aware. I am aware. I am a parent because we have Dinky." And basically like this: you didn't come to apologize. You came to say the word, but you aren't sorry. Say, I do. See, when you have fools of your own, you'll know. I do have a fool of my own," said Dinky. Dipsy said, "A little filly. She's here tonight." And of course, everyone makes mistakes. And Dipsy just talks to Nightlight, saying that Nightlight is he's just worried. He's ultimately, at the end of the day, he's just a broken father who's worried about his daughter. And Dipsy is the only one who actually sympathizes. Like, that she did try to apologize. She genuinely tried to apologize to you. The least you can do is, even if you won't like each other, even if you disagree on some things, at least acknowledge the fact that she tried to do something. That Trixie extended that olive branch. That Trixie at least is regretful of that, and the fact, and just accept that olive branch, even if you won't like each other in the future, even if you still hate each other's guts. Sometimes you still should at least take the olive branches off. And I think this is such a very, very mature moment. Like I said, I think this is honestly the most mature moment, because a lot of people, they tend to blame others, and they tend to really, really hate each other. Like, you hate each other, you don't try to seek forgiveness. You're like, I hate you forever because of something I disagree with or something I don't like about you, so I'm going to hate you and ruin your life. It shows a very, very mature level of someone saying, like, even Dipsy literally says, see, what, where is it? Where is it? Yeah. Trixie was defensive and ready for a fight, but that was because Twilight had called her magic fake while she was in the middle of a stage show of fools, and then came backstage just to continue calling Trixie a fraud. Let's see. There's a lot. Actually, I don't think. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, but that's not your. Trixie knows better to hold on to hate. If you go up to her and apologize, really apologize, she'll accept, and she really, really wants to. Let's see. See, I do not hate you, Representative Trixie. I don't care about you, but my daughter, I want to know where she is. I want her back. I would give anything, do anything, but I thought it would help. And that sentiment has made me threaten the livelihoods of hundreds of ponies just to try and destroy everything you ever wanted. Yeah. See, Trixie basically made Twilight look like Troublous. She should have been better. And I as well. And here it is. They weren't friends now. They would never be friends. And I think that honestly makes this scene so powerful. The fact that sometimes you shouldn't, just because you hate someone doesn't mean you should always hate them. Like you should at least try. Let me say where I'm going with this. There's a lot of people out there that try to come up with the assumption that, okay, I disagree with you on something, even if it's something slight. I automatically hate you. I don't want to see where you're coming from. I don't care what you're coming from. I want to destroy your life, and I want to ruin you. And I think that actually is a very dangerous mindset. And just because you disagree on something doesn't mean you should at least listen to their points of view. Like you should. It's like, okay, I disagree with you on this. At least, can I at least hear where you're coming from? And you'd be surprised that if you tell that to people, they would be surprised because they're so used to just either in echo chambers or just hearing what they want to hear, that someone with an opposing view would just politely ask them, like, well, what's your opinion on this? I think that actually makes this one single part so perfect. The fact that the story flat out admits they're not going to be friends. They're not going to be warm and cozy with each other. They're still going to hate each other, but they're willing to work together to try and help to find Twilight. They're willing to work together, even if they hate each other, for a common goal. And I think that is such a very powerful lesson. And in fact, it's such a small moment in the grand scheme of this story that it just makes it so much more powerful. The fact of how poignant it is as a lesson. The fact that even if you disagree with someone, you shouldn't automatically hate them. You should just respect the fact that they have a different opinion on some things. When I do these videos, will I automatically hate someone who has a different opinion on it? No, because ultimately that's their opinion. They're gonna have different takes on stories. They're gonna have their different ideas on what a story should do, and I'm not gonna hate them for that because they have their own thoughts. They have their own ideas. And I would actually love to hear their ideas instead of just saying, no, I don't like your ideas because they're not my ideas. I think that's very poignant. But yeah, that's my favorite part of these two stories. What would I change, on the other hand? There's one part each here that I would like to change. There is one thing I think could be expanded here, and that is Ditsy's role. Because we're pretty obviously shown that Ditsy is not as drunk as the rest of the town, because she's not only a mother, but she's also something of a dedicated workaholic, being a mailmare. And the fact that after chapter 3, she literally just disappears. Like she's never shown again partying or acting up. She just literally she's just gone. So I think maybe, I mean, it is implied that she may have actually been smart enough to know that something was going on, and so she just decided to hide away to try and to prevent her from going any further. But I think it was very strange that that Ditsy didn't even show up drunk. She was drunk, but not on the level like Trixie or Carrot Top, or just acting very crazy. She was still a mother. She was kind of becoming neglectful. There's that. However, with Grand Galloping Gala, the whole Trixie and Blue Book part at the end, I do not like this part. Let me paint it out. So the context is, this is after Luna chewed out the Night Court, and they also, after the Trixie and her friends got the night titles, Trixie goes visits Blue Blood and basically gives her like the concoction that she convinced the bartender to make at the Gala. It's like, I want a name for this. I'm just thinking of it. And basically he treats her. And then she basically tells him, it's like, oh, I poisoned you. Truthfully, she didn't actually poison him, but it's basically a placebo effect to basically kind of keep him out of the way until everything was settled down. However, I don't like that. I also don't like the fact that Trixie technically got away with it. Not only with this, but essentially doing the whole Zany thing. It is revealed that it's a sting. But the fact that Luna didn't chew Trixie out at no point, honestly rubs me the wrong way. I think, honestly, Luna should have said something to Trixie. It's like, because this is where the big controversy for the story comes. Because this story was very controversial. The fact that a lot of people didn't like it were split on whether Trixie doing any of this was in the right or in the wrong. Because on one hand, you have Trixie. Luna needed that swift kick in the butt. Like she needed to know to basically show her all this, and you need to actually step up as a leader. But on the other hand, the fact that one Trixie gets away with it, she's not even yelled at by Luna in any sort of way, and then she does this with Blue Blood. It gives off the interpretation that the author just basically nuked Trixie's character. A character that's been developed for 20 plus stories. 20 plus stories for Trixie to develop as a character. And this scene and this part just basically almost nukes her character. And makes her as bad as the Night Court. I'm more in... I get why, because the story makes it seem like Blue Blood's kind of a loose end because he didn't get hit by the Truth of the Scourge, and that mainly because of Trixie, because of Pinky. But this kind of doesn't make sense with the whole context of Pinky and Bluey, where Blue Blood actually genuinely becomes a better person thanks to Pinkie Pie. That this whole part just kind of comes off, Trixie doing what she does just massively comes off as hypocritical. Like she's sort of, I wanted to get Blue Blood out of the way, despite the fact Blue Blood was already getting out of the way by a different character, and then just going too far. Like if the author wants to keep this part, I'm not gonna shun him. I'm not gonna insult him. I'm not gonna blame him if he wants to keep this part. It's just my interpretation. I honestly think, at best, maybe not the poisoning. Maybe not pretend poison Blue Blood. Maybe just talk to him and just kind of say that, oh, I can easily get, because, well, Blue Blood already knows everything. It just comes off as very hypocritical, in my opinion. I don't like the poisoning. I don't like the fact that Trixie got chewed out. That Trixie didn't get chewed out. I just think, just have Luna say something to her. Maybe give her a fine, saying that you're gonna need to do something simple. It's like, Trixie, you're not getting any money for 1 month. So what does that mean? You must get a job, and you must earn income, not from the palace. Yeah, where will I get my bourbon? You'll have to work somewhere for it. Yeah, like something you could easily just do something minor, like just chew her out. Show that, like, oh, I'm going to hold you this. You can easily just do, I'm holding you the same standard as I'm doing with the rest of the Night Court. Don't do anything stupid. So that way, that would actually have more impact when everyone else is like chewing out Trixie for pretending to poison Blue Blood. Like, I just didn't like that. I just think maybe just cut out the poison thing. Keep the conversation, because honestly, with Pinky Bluey, like, he's already wising up not to do any of that. I just think it's redundant. Excuse me. Yeah, that is these two stories. One more video to go. Oh wait. One more video to go. So this has been Foalish Misadventures and at the Grand Galloping Gala. This has been Dark Symphony 777. And